on today, leaving us a legacy of art, music, and wisdom. At the heart of almost every culture is our relation and connection with the divine. Today, their profound contemplations, beliefs, and great sacrifices have at times become misunderstood and even ridiculed. With the help of academic experts, we'll shine a new light on some of the most influential and courageous characters in history and the miracles that surround them.
A painting that has true beauty. I imagine it's like a door. The artist holds the key to open the door and bring people to a purer world. A world where people are more compassionate.
I am Li Qing-yung, the founder of Kwai Shan Fang. In Taiwan, we have the world's largest cypress forest. My father especially loves the forest scent emitted by the cypress forest. To bring the forest's fragrance to my father and family, I founded Kwai Shan Fang. We aim to provide you with the most natural cypress forest essence.
Welcome back. People in southern Texas are bracing for heavy rains. A new tropical storm, Harold, is rolling ashore along the Gulf Coast. The storm had maximum sustained winds of up to 45 miles per hour. According to the National Hurricane Center, it could slam South Texas with 3 to 5 inches of rain, bringing moisture to parts of the drought-stricken state. A tropical storm warning is already in effect for the mouth of the Rio Grande through Port O'Connor. Some areas may get storm surge up to 3 feet. Forecasters also say some parts of South Texas could also see tornadoes. Lahaina residents are getting offers for their property just weeks after the wildfire destroyed their homes, but some locals aren't having it. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
Deborah Loeffler felt she couldn't lose much more after the Lahaina wildfire. Her 5-generation home was destroyed. Then she started getting emails from supposed realtors. They offered cash for the beachfront plot where her house used to be.
Well, I've got emails, and I think 2 were from local, and I trash canned them, and I cleared my trash can too, wanting to buy your home, and they had your address already.
Many families who lost homes don't have insurance. The Hawaii governor has warned against capitalizing on the disaster.
I have instructed the Attorney General to impose enhanced criminal penalties on anyone who tries to take advantage of victims by acquiring property in the affected areas.
But that hasn't stopped some people from offering to buy Loeffler's home.
I can't really remember. I was so upset that they'd even offer. I know they apologize for your loss and something about if you're wanting to relocate, we're willing to, I don't know exactly how it went, but something along those lines. So.
But Loeffler says there's no chance she's selling.
This is home. They've got family roots here. My youngest son wants to come back here and, finish raising his family here. We're not leaving.
More than 800 people are still missing. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A 100-year-old Maui residence is shown vibrant in photos and in perfect condition, while all homes around it are gray with rubble and ashes from the fire. The couple that owns the home were out of town. They were made aware of the fire and that the whole neighborhood would likely burn down. But later they saw aerial photos that revealed their home was intact. The Milliken family purchased the home in 2021. They started crying when they realized their home still stands. Trip Milliken told the Honolulu Civil Beat that he felt guilty about his home surviving the disaster. Milliken said the home was made of California redwood, but so was the home that burned down next door. Californians are helping each other clean up the damage from Tropical Storm Hilary, which brought flooding and, in one town, a huge mudslide. Here's the latest.
Flooded homes and inundated streets. Residents of Cathedral City are surveying the damage from Tropical Storm Hilary. City Councilwoman Nancy Ross and her husband Bob cleaned up debris. They chatted with neighbors and helped them put garden furniture back where it belonged.
Everybody's on high alert today to check with their neighbors, check with their friends, make the phone call trees. We have a lady, and I'm going to point over to her house here, and she is in the hospital. She's just had an ankle replacement, and I know there's that much water standing in her home right now.
Ross said they didn't expect floods when it started raining on Sunday, but it quickly became apparent the storm drains couldn't cope.
Well, I think when the rain started, people just didn't understand how bad it was going to be. But I will say, for the most part, the news pounded it and pounded it and pounded it, and people stayed in. The worst part was here on this street. It's called Coble. It took on thigh-high water.
Tom Fitzsimmons and his neighbors in San Bernardino are also dealing with the aftermath. Bulldozers and sand trucks are clearing roads and driveways after a heavy mudslide trapped residents and vehicles in the hillside community.
We're just trying to clear the driveway so we can get out eventually, or bring a tractor in to clean up all the mud. We cleared all the rocks out, and this is just the finishing part of that. And we still can't go over that bridge because that's like quicksand there.
Fortunately, Fitzsimmons and his neighbors were able to cope with the downpour.
You know, for us it's minor, and I think we're under an evacuation order, but we just shelter in place because we're all capable. No one's, frail or older or anything like that. So that's what we always do if we can, just ride out the storm.
The extent of the damage is expected to become clearer later this week.
A hearing today will decide whether Texas can keep its controversial floating barriers. Ahead of the court session, the state moved the buoys to the American side of the Rio Grande. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said the repositioning was out of caution. Last week, a court filing said the floating barrier was primarily on the Mexican side of the river. Abbott said he didn't know if those allegations were true. Texas began installing the bright orange buoys in July. The DOJ filed a lawsuit citing potential impact on Mexican relations as well as the humanitarian risks. Abbott insisted the barriers are legal. Supporters say they form a deterrent to illegal border crossings. The legality of a raid on a Kansas newspaper is being called into question. The police chief that led the raid says he had probable cause to believe the newspaper broke the law in obtaining information about a local business owner. A spokesperson for the Kansas Department of Revenue said yesterday the agency's website is public-facing and anyone can use it. He said it's legal to access its database online using information obtained independently. Legal experts believe the raid violated a federal privacy law or a state law that shields journalists from having to identify sources or turn over unpublished material to law enforcement. Police seized computers, personal cell phones, and a router from the newspaper and the publisher's home. They were returned after the county prosecutor concluded there wasn't enough evidence to justify the action. The newspaper remains under investigation. A U.S. appeals court has revived the Alabama ban on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones for minors. The Atlanta appeals court said those challenging the law did not make their case regarding a right for parents to treat their children with transitioning medication. Judge Barbara Lagoa wrote for the three-judge panel. She said Alabama has a compelling interest in protecting children from drugs, particularly those for which there is uncertainty. Coming up, Tesla is informing workers of an insider data breach that exposed employee personal info. What will the company do now? And 3 companies accused the IRS of backdating penalty approvals. The approvals involve millions of dollars in penalties. We'll have the details soon when we return.
NTD's Capital Report. It's about getting answers, cutting through the fog of politics. It's about your questions and our chances to ask.
What is the net impact of the American Carson Graves? Thank you for joining us.
We're speaking to those in power to find out what does this mean for the people. We're here so you're in the know.
Good morning. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
The stories that need to be told, the voices that need to be heard, the truth that you need to see. Get unbiased and in-depth news. Don't miss a beat. I'm Stephanie Cox. At NTD, we're here for you.
Thanks for staying with us. Tesla is notifying current and former employees of an insider data breach. Over 75,000 confidential employee records were exposed in May. Tesla says the leak involved social security numbers, names, and addresses. In a letter to the Maine Attorney General, Tesla wrote that a foreign media outlet told the company that it had obtained confidential Tesla information. The Germany-based newspaper received at least 100 gigabytes of confidential data from the two leakers. Handelsblatt newspaper reported in May that a disgruntled former employee provided the paper access to the files. Tesla says it filed a lawsuit against the two former employees. The electric car maker informed employees that it would offer complimentary membership to Experian Identity Works credit monitoring and identity theft service. Handelsblatt promised Tesla that it wouldn't publish any of the personal information, but it did report there were almost 4,000 customer complaints regarding Tesla's driver assistance technology in the leaked files. The IRS has come under fire by 3 Georgia businesses. They say a supervisor at the tax agency backdated approvals for fines. The issue centers around conservation easement deals, which is when people agree to restrict the use of their land for conservation purposes. By giving these agreements to charity, they can claim tax breaks. The IRS has been stepping up scrutiny for these cases, claiming taxpayers are taking advantage of it. But IRS agents can't impose penalties without a supervisor's signature. 3 Georgia companies, Arden Rowe Assets, Basswood Partners, and Delwood Partners, say that's what happened. They filed a lawsuit last week. They allege that an IRS supervisor intentionally backdated approvals for millions of dollars in penalties. The IRS did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The conservation easement tax provision has proven difficult to administer. A Brookings Institution study said it ranks among the top 10 most litigated issues between the IRS and taxpayers. Healthcare costs are hurting the middle class. That's the conclusion of a new study by a think tank called The Third Way. It shows that 25% of middle-class Americans, or about 17 million people, had unpaid health care bills in 2020. That's a higher percentage than lower-income or higher-income Americans. Third Way defines a middle class as a family of 3 earning between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. Researchers found while middle-class Americans may have good health insurance plans, they are hurt by high deductibles and out-of-pocket costs. The study also found disparities by race. Among the middle class, nearly 38% of Black Americans and just over 25% of Hispanics have medical debt, compared with 20% of white people and 16% of Asian Americans. Another statistic shows that American workers are looking forward to record high wages. According to a survey by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, average minimum wages that workers are willing to accept for new jobs rose to over $78,000 last month. That's up nearly 8% from 1 year ago. The survey also shows that college graduates and men are the ones with the biggest boost. Economists are citing the labor market and the economy, including inflation, as part of the reason for the higher wage expectations. Goldman Sachs is warning clients that Washington is on track to its first U.S. government shutdown in 5 years. Here to discuss is my friend and colleague, NTD Business's Don Ma. How are you, Don?
I'm good, Chris. A little bit tired, but I'll try my best to answer your questions today.
All right. Why is Goldman Sachs saying we're heading for a shutdown?
Okay, so here's some context first to why we're even facing the threat of a shutdown. Now, under the Anti-Deficiency Act, federal agencies cannot spend any money without appropriation or approval from Congress. Therefore, when Congress fails to enact annual appropriation bills, federal agencies must cease all non-essential functions. And that's known as a government shutdown. So then why would Congress be unable to pass the appropriation bills, right? Well, Goldman Sachs is arguing that a thin House majority and a dispute on spending levels, among other disagreements, are making things a bit complicated for Congress. So Goldman Sachs thinks that a shutdown is actually more likely than not this year.
And during shutdowns, some federal employees, but not all, are told not to report for work. Government employees who provide essential services such as air traffic control and law enforcement will continue to work, but they don't get paid until Congress takes action to end the shutdown. But keep in mind that this applies only to about 25% of federal spending that's actually subject to annual appropriation by Congress. Shutdown could also potentially delay the release of federal economic reports, including the ones on inflation and the labor market.
Yeah, and let's talk about whether this is worrying for the economy and individuals. So I like to say that it seems like Wall Street is not losing sleep over this, because a government shutdown would cause some problems for individuals, but it would not be very damaging to the U.S. economy at large. And Goldman Sachs says basically the same thing as well. And Chris, we have to understand that a shutdown is actually far less severe than a U.S. debt default. Benefits such as Social Security and Medicare will continue to flow because they're authorized by Congress in laws that do not need annual approval, so that's good. And the Treasury can continue to pay interest on U.S. Treasury debt on time, so the threat is definitely less. But because the risk to the economy is lower, that actually potentially could make it easier for Congress to, for them to have less pressure to reach a decision in time. And that's what Goldman is saying too, that because a government shutdown would be manageable for the economy, it's why it's likely to happen.
All right, thank you, Don. Nissan Sentra owners, here's a recall you don't want to ignore. Nissan is calling back more than 235,000 Sentras because drivers could lose control of them. This issue is a front suspension rod that can bend on certain impact, like hitting a curb. Once that happens, the driver can lose the ability to steer the vehicle. Nissan will send letters to owners in October inviting them to have their cars inspected if they experience steering issues. Then, when replacement parts become available in the winter, all owners will be allowed to get the parts replaced, regardless of whether they have noticed issues. The affected vehicles are 2020 through 2022 models. Staying with car safety, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is proposing a new rule for passenger vehicles. It would expand seatbelt warning systems. Right now, automakers must equip vehicles with sounds to remind drivers to buckle up, but that could soon include front passenger and backseat riders. The agency wants to use sound and perhaps lights to urge people to buckle up. It says adding the extra warning could save about 100 lives a year. The public can comment on the proposed rule for the next 60 days. Is the world economy big enough for two major currencies? BRICS nations might be thinking so. BRICS nations include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Russian officials said the bloc is planning to create a shared gold-backed currency. To learn more, I spoke with Thomas Hogan, Senior Research Faculty at the American Institute for Economic Research and former Chief Economist for the U.S. Senate Banking Committee. Thomas Hogan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, glad to be on.
Thomas, why might BRICS nations be looking to create a shared gold-backed currency?
So these countries already have a trade agreement, and so they've talked about whether a currency agreement will make that more successful, make it easier for them to trade. And the gold idea has been floated. It's not an official proposal yet, but gold standards in the past have been very historically successful at enabling international trade. And so this might be something that these countries could do to further promote their trade union.
And what hurdles might they face in creating this currency?
Well, they believe that this would be a big advantage to help them not only trade among themselves, but in international trade. But it is difficult because one of the things that a gold standard requires is that people have to trust that the government will actually redeem the gold. You know, it requires strong property rights, and Russia and China are just not known for strong property rights. And so it's questionable whether people will actually believe that if Russia and China are holding their gold, that people will actually be able to redeem it when they want to.
Talk to us about the ability of a potential gold-backed BRICS currency to challenge the U.S. dollar.
Right. Yeah, that's been one of the most controversial questions about this is, will it be a threat to U.S. dollar dominance? The U.S. dollar is widely used in international trade, partly because we have a lot of trade partners, but also because it's just a very stable currency relative to the other ones. I mean, we're having bad problems with inflation in the last few years, but relative to a lot of other countries, it's not so bad. And so if they could provide a more stable currency, then it's worried that a lot of people would switch away from the dollar. We do see a couple of very stable currencies like the Swiss franc. They get very disproportional use in international trade. And so it is possible that if they were able to create a gold-backed currency, that a lot of people might want to use that instead of the U.S. dollar for international trade.
And what would that mean for the United States?
So, you know, it'd mean, so on one hand, like if they were able to create a better currency than the U.S. dollar, then for a lot of U.S. International trade, like some U.S. companies might want to use that too, and some of our partners that we trade with might prefer to use a more stable currency. But largely, it's political that the U.S. government uses the dollar for political reasons and tries to have countries that are more closely aligned with the United States using the dollar. We've also, because we're such a stable currency, supported other countries when they have a financial crisis or when we and the rest of the world has a global crisis or recession. The U.S. government has stepped in. And so, there's a worry that there might not be that kind of help if the U.S. government is needed. But mostly, as a political tool, that it's better for the United States if people are using our currency.
Thomas Hogan, Senior Research Faculty at the American Institute for Economic Research. Thank you.
Thanks. Glad to be on.
Another top Biden administration official is set to visit China. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo is scheduled to travel to Beijing and Shanghai from August 20th to August 30th. The department says she will discuss issues related to U.S.-China commercial relationships, U.S. businesses in China, and other areas for potential cooperation. A trade dispute is escalating between the U.S. and Mexico. A Mexican decree bans the import of genetically modified corn for use in tortillas, a staple food for Mexicans. Washington claims that the ban lacks scientific basis and that it violates the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement, or USMCA, launched in 2020. Mexico's economy minister told Reuters yesterday that her country has ruled out further changes to the decree.
I am convinced that the United States will agree with us because of the way we made the decree, and regardless of anything else, we will abide by the rule, whatever the panel decides. That's because we do believe that everything has to be done in strict accordance with the law.
Mexico partially revised the decree back in February, modifying its tough stance on GM corn. The new order allows its use in animal and industrial food, but maintains a ban on human consumption. Mexico imports about $5 billion of corn per year from the U.S., much of it in yellow GM grain for livestock feed. Washington has called for a dispute settlement panel under the USMCA. If the panel rules in favor of the U.S., Mexico may have to pay punitive tariffs on their goods. And if you have any news tips or feedback for the show, please feel free to email us at news.today@ntd.com. After the break, a group of activists and moms who lost their children to fentanyl meet in Times Square. They're there to raise awareness of the crisis. And there's hope behind the scenes of the opioid crisis, plugging away unnoticed. Recovered addicts are helping current addicts break free. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of alien tape free. You wouldn't stick your mother-in-law on the wall, but you could with alien tape. It just sticks. Just peel and stick to make anything stay in place quick. Brick, pavers, marble, tile, plastic, even leather. Nothing works better than alien tape. You wouldn't stick your fishbowl on a moving car, but you could with alien tape. The secret is nano-stick technology that grabs and locks on to secure one side of the surface to the other. Alien tape secures in seconds, then twist, pull, and rinse to reuse. Call or go online to get your first roll of alien tape for just $19.99, plus shipping and processing. But to make this deal really stick, we'll give you 2 more rolls absolutely free. You get 3 rolls of alien tape for one low price. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-490-1364 or go to tryalientape.com. So call 1-800-490-1364 or order online at tryalientape.com.
I had a pretty normal mom life. Everything was pretty good, and it was a very happy life.
And we just had a new baby. And then all of a sudden, within a day or two, she's on life support and fighting for her life.
And I knew something was pretty wrong. A little less than a week after I came home, I couldn't breathe. That's when we decided to go to the hospital. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
This could not happen without monthly donations from friends like you. Your sustained support helps fund life-saving research that leads to medical breakthroughs, like those that gave Jen a second chance at life. Heart disease is the #1 killer in America, and we urgently need your help to save lives. Go to helpheart.org or call now to become a monthly donor today. Your donation of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, will make a difference through prevention, early detection, treatments, and cures that help save lives.
I am very thankful for the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children.
Please go to helpheart.org or call now with your donation of just $19 a month. Join our community of monthly donors, and you'll get this limited edition t-shirt you could wear to show you're helping save lives.
One simple act today can save your life or the life of a loved one.
So please, call or go to helpheart.org now to help save lives.
Back to the news. If you're just joining us now, here are some of today's top headlines. Trump's lawyers agreed to a $200,000 bond in the Georgia trial. Some of his 18 co-defendants began to surrender to Fulton County authorities this morning. The former president plans to on Thursday. 8 candidates have reached the threshold for the first GOP primary debate. Popular topics may include abortion, Ukraine, and illegal immigration. But Trump won't attend, possibly to avoid turning attention to his opponents. Lahaina residents are receiving offers for their properties just weeks after the wildfire destroyed their homes. But locals don't seem eager to sell. And Hawaii's governor has warned against capitalizing on the disaster. Efforts are underway in California to clean up the damage from Tropical Storm Hillary. Locals dealing with the aftermath of floodwaters and mudslides. Think again, fentanyl kills. This message lit up a billboard in Times Square yesterday. It was National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. The CDC reported over 100,000 people died of drug overdoses and poisoning in the U.S. last year. Almost 70% involved in synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Here's the story.
A group called Facing Fentanyl held an awareness event Monday on Times Square. The organization warned people about the growing fentanyl poisoning problem in the United States.
This morning, our families stand in Times Square on the busiest street in America to acknowledge the hundreds of thousands of lives that have been lost to fentanyl poisoning.
The CDC says fentanyl is a synthetic opioid about 50 times stronger than heroin, 100 times more potent than morphine.
According to the CDC, the leading cause of death among Americans between ages of 18 and 45 is drug poisonings. The CDC estimates that over 110,000 Americans died from drug poisonings in just last year.
Many of the fentanyl poisoning victims didn't even realize they took fentanyl.
The national drug supply is tainted with this deadly analog called fentanyl. People, when they're suspecting to buy some kind of prescription medication on the street, Xanax, Klonopin, Valium, and end up overdosing or poisoned from fentanyl, that is a national scourge that's claiming the lives of more Americans than ever before we tracked.
Activists say educating the public is crucial in reversing the trend.
We're doing everything we can with moms and dads and brothers and sisters who have lost people to band together with our federal government and educate our communities. National drug supply is tainted. We wish it wasn't, but it was. One pill can kill.
The CDC recommends wider distribution of medications which reverse opioid overdoses and to increase awareness about access to treatment.
Behind the spike in deaths from the deadly opioid fentanyl is the age-old problem of addiction. In a two-part series, we take a look at the nature of this beast and the hope for addicts and their families. Today, we'll hear the first-hand account of recovered opioid addict Roger Garrison.
I didn't really get introduced to any kind of drugs or addiction issues. I was actually in my 30s. And I had a couple of back operations, and I was taking a lot of pain meds at the time. And I started to realize as time went on that even when my back and stuff was getting better, that I still liked doing the pain meds. I was going to bed at night praying not to wake up again.
Roger had hit rock bottom. He lost everything. He was homeless. He didn't have a job. He had nothing.
I woke up one morning and I said, if I continue to do this, or if I continue on this road, I'm going to die.
He joined a 12-step program. These mutual aid groups consist of addicts helping other addicts through simple steps to recovery. There, in one of the group's weekly meetings, Roger met someone who told him how to get his life back.
First thing you have to do is you got to stop doing the drugs. You know, that's the most difficult thing probably there is to do. You know, that's the thing you have to do perfect. You can't use the drugs. You got to deal with things on a daily basis. But I find myself talking to people, one addict helping another. I have a close friend that when there's something really going on in my life, I'll call him up, he'll come over, we'll just shoot the breeze for an hour and a half and have coffee. And it's one-on-one, one addict helping another. That's how we get through it. So it's never too late, it's never too early. You know, but I consider myself blessed to have found where I'm at now in my life. And my life is really good. And I'm in one of the best spots that I've ever been in, even before I had issues there.
Roger's story is not uncommon, though you don't hear about it very often. As for his message to people struggling with addiction amid the fentanyl crisis, Roger has this to say.
It's a very difficult situation, but there's hope out there. You know, there are programs and there's people out there. You know, we look for people. We want people who are struggling to come in. That's the core of our program. You know, that's what we do. I mean, those people that come in struggling, we want to help them and show them there's a better way. And then when they get to that point, they can help others.
After the break, 2 U.S. zoos are celebrating the birth of newborns. One is a frisky baby giraffe, and the other a clouded leopard kitten who will become an ambassador for its rare species. Details to come on NTD News Today.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
Taiwan's endangered stout camphor trees are worth conserving. Alps Biotech is committed to nationwide restoration to maintain eco-balance. To help counter global warming, we're keen to act on carbon reduction and attain zero emissions. We're realizing ESG sustainability while building up carbon credits. Restoring stout camphor trees, promoting global sustainability. Alps Biotech.
Welcome back. Astronomers are waiting to see if aliens respond to a message they sent into outer space 40 years ago. The message they sent consists of 13 drawings depicting DNA, the theory of evolution, and the solar system. The drawings were translated into radio waves and beamed across space by astronomers at Stanford University. Now scientists in Japan are scanning the sky. They hope for a return message from the Altair star, located in the Achilles constellation 16.7 light-years away. Professor Shinya Narusawa of the University of Hyogo is leading the research team. He believes a planet in Altair's solar system could hold extraterrestrial life. The team is using antennas to scan for any incoming outer space messages. The team picked today to begin looking for a message since it corresponds with Japan's Star Festival holiday. Visitors to a well-known sunflower farm in the UK are being urged to keep their clothes on. The Stoke Fruit Farm on Hayling Island issued the unusual request on social media. The owners say too many visitors to the field of 2 million sunflowers were posing naked for photo shoots. Although there are remote areas of the farm on an island off England's south coast, many were posing nude out in the open. The farm's owners became concerned after children visiting the farm were exposed to the nudity. Although there have been risque social media posts from the farm before, this is the first year it has become a real problem. A celebration at a Chicago area zoo. Zookeepers welcomed the arrival of a giraffe calf over the weekend. She's the 60th calf born in the Brookfield Zoo since 1940. The Chicago Zoological Society says the baby giraffe was born Saturday to a 16-year-old reticulated giraffe, Arnietta. It's around 6 feet tall and weighs 130 pounds. The calf will stay behind the scenes for a few weeks to bond with her mother before making a public debut. The pregnancy for Arnietta was confirmed in July last year, which followed a pair of miscarriages. It's the second calf born to Arnietta, following a male in 2012. And in Oklahoma, a city zoo is also cheering. This clouded leopard kitten was born last month after a 90-day pregnancy. The zoo says he's so special that he's getting extra care from zookeepers, and they report he's doing well. The little guy is more than just cute. The facility partners with other zoos to carry out a survival plan for this vulnerable species. When this little guy grows stronger, he's due to become an ambassador for his species at another zoo. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Chris Beers.
Does this look familiar? You probably